Hi everybody, my name is Booksmarts, and today we'll be doing a 0 to Hero guide for the Mistweaver Monk. We'll be breaking down the class as if you have 0 experience or knowledge, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have enough knowledge to crush achievements like Keystone Hero and AOTC. We'll be going over class and specialization abilities, cooldowns, talents, rotation, stat priority, gear, macros and add-ons, and a couple tips and tricks of mistweaving. As a quick disclaimer, I am only human. I definitely can be wrong about some things when making these guides, and as such, please do flood these videos with comments, corrections, or tips and tricks of your own. I want these guides to be a place that people can come to not only get a rundown of how the class works, but dozens of neat tips and tricks for every situation, and I'll need your help to do that. So, without any further ado, let's begin mistweaving. Alright, now I've chosen this class to be the start of my 0 to Hero guides because I'm currently having a ton of fun on the character. It's in a really good spot on the healing meters, and it's extremely fun to play. 2 months before making this video, I had never played a Mistweaver before, and now I'm having a problem playing anything else. I mean, it's really good. But what is a Mistweaver monk? Well, monks as a class are known for their use of chi and chakras, using their powers to help create and maintain balance within the world. Mistweavers are the healing specializations, and bring mists of different kinds down around their friends and enemies, enveloping and renewing their allies, while giving some good old-fashioned fist-to-face communications to the enemies. When mistweaving, you'll be using a whole slew of buttons, so let's get some of them figured out. Rising Sun Kick is a staple ability, also very simple. You kick someone, dealing damage on a 9 to 10 second cooldown. Another ability is Blackout Kick, again a damaging ability. But this one on a much shorter cooldown, roughly 3 seconds, and a time may come where you're using these abilities and you want to continue your face-to-face communications, but they're both on cooldown, and that's where Tiger Palm comes into play. Another melee damaging ability, but this one does not have a cooldown, which is nice. It means that you can keep using it while Rising Sun Kick and Blackout Kick are on cooldown, right? But what if you want to hit more than one person? Well, that's what Spinning Crane Kick is for. Spinning Crane Kick is best whenever you're attacking multiple targets. As long as you continuously press the button over and over, you'll continuously spin, which will continuously keep doing damage to them. And with these 4 abilities, we'll always be able to do damage. But I know you're probably thinking, wait, Books, this is for a healing spec. What's with all the damage buttons? And right you are, so let's get into the healing buttons. First up is Renewing Mists. A simple heal over time spell goes to a target ally within 20 yards and does healing over 20 seconds. It's going to be your bread and butter heal over time, or hot. You also have a much stronger hot, Enveloping Mists. Now I know it's pronounced Enveloping Mists, but I see the word and my brain says envelope, so whenever you hear me say it wrong, just, I don't know, take a shot. Now, Enveloping Mist doesn't last as long, but it does substantially more healing while it's active. You can see on my character, a Renewing Mist for 20 seconds is just under 55,000, where an Enveloping Mist is less than half the time and more than twice the healing. So it's very, very useful. Your bread and butter casted heal is called Vivify. Normally on a 1 to 1.5 second cooldown, Vivify will heal a single target for a specified amount. And with my gear, my Vivify hits for almost 75,000. For AoE healing, or area of effect, we have Essence Font, which shoots out a bunch of healing mists over a channeled cast that will gather on people. The tooltip reads that a mist will shoot out every 1.2 seconds for 3 seconds, but the number can change based on talents and haste. And while it does do healing, I've learned that it's best not to think of Essence Font as a heal everyone button, but more of a puts a hot on everyone button. We also have a built-in self-heal named Expel Harm. On a 15-second cooldown, it's a large self-heal, oftentimes a full self-heal, that does a small amount of damage based on how much you healed yourself for. And Mistweavers in particular get a channeled heal called Soothing Mist. This channeled heal is amazing for single target healing, as it allows you to cast your Enveloping Mists and Vivify on whomever you're healing with Soothing Mist instantly. It can be extremely handy for helping someone survive lots of damage, or quickly healing someone back up to full. But if you need help quickly healing lots of people to full, it might be time for a cooldown. And speaking of cooldowns, as Mistweavers, we have a decent amount to help us in both offensive and defensive situations, provided we take the right talents. Revival is a bread and butter healing cooldown for Mistweavers. A 3-minute cooldown that can be lowered via the rotation. Revival heals all party or raid members for a decent chunk. For my character, it's roughly 69,000. Nice. And it dispels every one it heals. Revival also heals for twice as much when you're in a party setting. And if it crits, it can heal your entire party for 3/4 of their health pool. It's a fantastic way to clear multiple debuffs and level out your entire group's health pool if things are getting sketchy. Shayloon's Gift is another massive group heal. While in combat, every 6 seconds a cloud will spawn somewhere in the general area. You can see if I go over here and I attack this dummy, a cloud will appear in just a moment. There we go, right there. Shayloon's Gift will gather all of these clouds up when I cast it and disperses it and its healing on up to 5 targets with talents. It sounds pretty good until you realize that at maximum item level, each cloud holds about 24,000 healing per person. It's about 250,000 healing on 5 people every minute off one button, and that's if it doesn't crit. And on top of that, you can even optimize it with talents to either make clouds appear every 4 seconds instead of 6, or make it so that whenever you do use Shayloon's Gift, you get a pretty good buff that lasts for 3 seconds per cloud absorbed. And when I say pretty good, I mean you got some very, very good options. For single target healing, our main cooldown is Life Cocoon, a 2-minute cooldown that puts a giant shield on a party or raid member for 12 seconds and increases the healing they receive by 50% while the shield holds. Our Celestial is another big healing cooldown. You can choose between Yulon or Chi-Ji, and they each augment a certain playstyle. They originally last for 25 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown, but with talents, you can create a 1-minute cooldown with a 12-second buff window. Because of the amount of buffs given to you via your Celestial, the amount of synergy you get, you'll always want it active when your group is taking damage. So having it up more often is extremely helpful. And we'll read off Chi-Ji right quick. Let's see here. For Chi-Ji, you summon an effigy of Chi-Ji for 12 seconds. It kicks up a gust of mist whenever you blackout kick, rising sun kick, or sprinting crane kick. See, it heals up to 2 allies and reduces the cost and cast time of your next enveloping mist by 33%, stacking, and that stacks up to 3. Gust of Mist is our mastery, and we'll talk about that later, but the important thing to note about Chi-Ji is the knowledge that it synergizes with your kicks and not Tiger Pump, the shield it gives your party, or up to 5 raid members, and its use with enveloping mist. And as a Mistweaver, our other Celestial is Yulon. For Yulon, we'd summon an effigy of Yulon, the Jade Serpent, for 12 seconds. Yulon will heal injured allies with Soothing Breath, healing the target and up to 2 allies for 22,000 and some change over 3.5 seconds. Enveloping Mist costs 50% less mana while Yulon is active. So when you first cast Yulon, your target and 2 others get healing. But the important takeaway from Yulon is the mana cost reduction on enveloping mists. See how with Yulon, it's about a low cost envelope, so we can get lots of envelopes out. But with Chi-Ji, it's about doing damage and earning free envelopes through your damage. Either way, one important thing to note is the importance and the strength of enveloping mists. For defensive cooldowns, we have a couple choices, all via talents. Dampen Harm is a 2-minute cooldown. 2-minute defensive cooldown that reduces damage taken by anywhere from 20 to 50% based on how much damage you've taken. Diffuse Magic is an interesting defensive cooldown with some niche uses. On a 90-second cooldown, for 6 seconds, you take 60% less magical damage, and any magic effects you have on you, such as a Pyroblast burn or a Flame Shot, will be given back to the person that gave them to you. Fortifying Brew is a nice defensive cooldown with a long cooldown time, but a lot of different ways it can be used. Fortifying Brew will increase your total health by 20% and reduce all damage you take by 20%. This can be used before an Expel Harm to do more damage, before a Touch of Death to increase your execute window, or just as plain damage reduction. Touch of Death, as we just mentioned, is a 3-minute cooldown that deals your max health as damage to someone who has less health than you do. So if you have 900,000 health and you want to use Touch of Death on an enemy, you cannot use it until the enemy has less than 900 health, but it will deal 900,000 damage. With talents, the execute rules can be changed around a little bit, reducing the cooldown and allowing to use it when the enemy has 15% HP, although it will only deal 35% of your max health. Not too bad. For utility, we get a Taunt, 15-second Silence, a Magic Poison Disease Dispel, a 1-minute AoE stun, a 45-second single target incapacitate called Paralysis that can be broken if the target takes damage, and I like to use it to interrupt a cast or for the incorporeal affix, as well as our Transcendence and our Transcendence Transfer, where we can leave a spirit thing behind and teleport back to it, and a circular displacement ring on a 45-second cooldown called Ring of Peace. Now that the majority of abilities have been discussed, let's talk about talents. I personally have 3 different loadouts I use for different situations, but feel free to have as few or as many as you like. We'll start with a Mythic Plus talent setup, and then our raid setups, because I actually have 2, as you can see. So we'll start with our left side, as it's the most static throughout the loadouts, and it refers to the monk class itself, not the Mistweaver spec. I'll show you what's going on in this tutor spec right here, and let's reset. Okay, you start off with Soothing Mist and Rising Sun Kick. You have to take both of them. You'll also want to take the final row 1 talent, Tiger's Lust. Tiger's Lust removes all roots and snares and increases the receiver's speed by 70% for 6 seconds. Nice snare removal or mini sprint for you or a party member. In row 2, we only want to take Calming Presence. Improved roll is nice, but we do have a better option farther down the tree. And Disable, being a 50% single target slow, isn't very useful for PvE content. In row 3, we want 1 point in Vigorous Expulsion, which boosts our expel harm, 2 points in Improved Vivify, which heavily buffs our Vivify, 1 point in Improved Detox to give our Dispel the extra effect removals, and Paralysis because of the utility. Now, if you know you won't have a need to dispel any poison or disease effects, you can always drop Improved Detox and pick up Improved Roll. Row 4, we're going to pick up 1 point in Vivacious Vivification, which is massive. Getting a free Vivify every 10 seconds is huge. 2 points in Ferocity of Zwen for 4% more damage, because we aren't actually healers, we're DPSers that heal. And 1 point in Improved Paralysis to drop the cooldown down to 45 seconds. Row 5, we get Transcendence, which is our Spirit Swap, Spear Hand Strike, which is our Silence, and Fortifying Brew, which is our defensive, or one of our defensive cooldowns. Row 6, we're going to grab Chi Burst, Ring of Peace, 2 points into Fast Feet, Celerity, and Expeditious Fortification. Chi ability, or Chi Burst rather, is another ability that does damage and healing, but it doesn't do anything to synergize with our other abilities, and in my opinion, it's mainly taken to get access to other parts of the tree. It does do damage to everything in a line though, so if you have a lot of enemies all stacked up together, it can potentially be worthwhile, but generally it has as much priority as a Tiger Palm, which is basically none. Ring of Peace is our Displacer. Fast Feet, just more damage into our main abilities, which is always nice. Celerity is the improved roll that we have up here. As you can see, it reduces the cooldown of roll by 5 seconds, but it also increases the maximum charge, so both handy things. And Expeditious Fortification to take our 6-minute defensive cooldown and drop that down to a 4-second, which isn't too terribly bad. Row 7, we're going to take Profound Rebuttal to buff our Expel Harm even more. We take Strength of Spirit on the far right, again to boost our now incredibly strong Expel Harm with a 15% increased critical chance, 5% increased healing, and 15% increased crit healing. Expel Harm is so good. Lastly, we have 2 choice nodes for this role, and both options for both nodes are good situationally. On the left, we're going to choose between Yulon's Grace or Diffuse Magic. Diffuse, as we talked about before, is useful when it is, and if not, it's just a dead button. Yulon's Grace, on the other hand, is immensely strong, and I think it doesn't get nearly as much credit as it deserves. More often than not, when I'm healing Mythic Plus keys, Yulon's Grace will be my 3rd or 4th highest healing ability out of everything. It's a passive that can give you well over 100,000 shield for magic damage, and you never have to do anything. It's fantastic. Unless there's a very specific reason for you to take Diffuse Magic, I would highly recommend Yulon's Grace. In the other node, again, we choose between a passive and an active. My ideology for the choice here is the same, but I go with the active this time, which is Dampen Harm. Dance of the Wind is extremely good in situations where you can make use of the dodges, such as the 3rd boss in Blackrock Hold, when he charges people, Smash Spite, I believe his name is. If you stack the dodges up and you dodge every one of his charges, that's potentially millions of healing that you don't have to heal, but that also means that you lose out on a 2-minute defensive cooldown that can potentially cut your damage in half, or damage taken in half, allowing you to survive things that you 100% shouldn't be able to. For row 8, we take 2 points in Close to Heart, 2 points in Generous Pour. As a Mistweaver, we are in the action. You know, we're going to be in melee range the majority of the time, if not all the time. As a result, these two talent choices buff all allies around us, increases healing taken from all sources, and reducing AoE damage taken by 4% to all allies. Very nice. Row 9, we finish up with 2 points and save them all, and 1 point into bounce back. Save them all increases my healing taken when I heal someone who's low, and bounce back reduces my damage taken if I take a big hit, or a hit more than 12% of my max. So this is my ideal left side setup. This is my ideal setup for damage. There are a couple of things you can move around. If you want the slow, you can take 2 points out and go into disable. That gives you the extra room with improved roll. You can take out 1 point into vigorous expulsion if you're not needing all that expel harm damage. Put it into bounce back. That gives you a little bit more toughness when taking that hit and improves your damage reduction up to 40%, which can be quite nice. But this is for general use in Mythic Plus. This is my class tree. And as I mentioned, we spent at least 5 points in utility that can be taken out. We could remove Ring of Peace, Transcendence from our damage via Touch of Death CDR. Lots and lots of different options, right? Now, depending on what's going on, if it's raid, things are a little bit different. If I'm using Chi-Ji, I'm still focused on ancient teachings and doing damage, but I don't really need a lot of the utility I've spec'd into, right? As I mentioned, the 2 points in paralysis. We can remove Ring of Peace if we're not on Farok. Farok is extremely useful. But we can remove Ring of Peace, do Touch of Death. There's so many different choices. If we wanted to, we could take our statue. It's not very strong right now, but that is the option. We could always take a little bit more of this healing out and put it into Resonant Fists, which is another excellent damage dealing ability. Tons and tons of different options here. Now, if I were to, let me actually undo the set right here. This is my full setup for Mythic Plus. For raiding, what I do precisely is I put one there, take this out, and we are going to do this. And what this changes, as you can see, a little bit more swapping around, and I think this is right. I'm not looking at anything at the moment. I do have things perfectly set up right here, but yeah. Now, if I'm raid healing with Yulon, my entire mindset changes. Right? Yes, I'm still a melee healer, but instead of doing healing via doing damage, I'm healing with Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, and using Rising Sun Kick to extend my hots on people. As a result, the gameplay changes a bit, and talents do as well. Let's go back to our general use, and from here, let me see, just make sure we're mainly looking to boost our healing by moving around our utility to get a couple more points. So we'll take a point out of Spear Hand Strike and get our statue, which is good. A point out of Improved Paralysis for Disable, so we can continue down the tree. A point out of Paralysis into Improved Roll, and 2 points out of Ferocity of Zwen. We're going to grab Escape from Reality and Grace of the Crane. Escape from Reality is very useful. There's a bit of synergy that works there with Transcendence. You'll notice that this build keeps Ring of Peace as well for the utility and applies a small amount of synergy to the Transcendence via our Escape Reality, as we just talked about. This build here is the build for raiding on Yulon if you just want to pump tons and tons of healing out via your mists. This is also my build for Farok specifically. But alright, class tree done. Now for our specialization tree. This tree has a little bit more ability, and a lot of the talents in the build off of each other, synergize with other things, so pay attention. Once again, we'll be going over the Mythic build first, and then the Chi-Ji raid build, and then the Yulon raid build. So, row 1, we definitely want our envelope. Row 2, you want both Essence Font and Renewing Mist, strong staple abilities. Row 3, you also want to take all 3. Life Cocoon, Thunder Focus Tea, and Mana Tea. And what on earth are these teas about? Well, I'm glad you asked. Alright, for Mana Tea, for every 25,000 mana you spend, you gain 1 stack of Mana Tea, with a chance equal to your critical strike chance to generate an extra stack, so that does help a little bit. To cast it, it's a channel, and as you channel, it consumes 1 stack of mana tea every 1/5 of a second, so 5 stacks a second, to restore some mana and reduce the mana cost of your spells by 30% for 1 second per stack. Now it stacks up to 20, and it's amazing. It's a lot of numbers. At full stack, it's a 2-second channel, gives you back at least 60,000 mana, and makes it so that the next 20 seconds, all spells you cast are going to cost 30% less, which is massive. Okay, Mistweaver as a spec is really mana intensive, especially when using Yulon. So getting your mana back, making good use of the mana cost reduction is the key to becoming a godlike Mistweaver. Right, Thunder Focus Tea, the other tea, is a 30-second cooldown. It augments the next spell you cast. It's very useful on most of the spells it works with, a huge pickup. Row 4, we take Teachings of the Monastery, Revival, and Invigorating Mists. Teachings of the Monastery is absolutely massive. It's an incredible talent if you have Chi-Ji. Still very useful if you're running Yulon, but it's amazing with Chi-Ji. You can see here, Tiger Palm causes your next Blackout Kick to strike an additional time up to 4 times. So you just Blackout Kick once, you hit the target once. If you Blackout, or if you Tiger Palm 4 times, you're going to hit the target with Blackout Strike 5 times. 4 extra times, right? 1 for each stack of teachings that you built up by Tiger Palming. And then the second part, Blackout Kick has a 15% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on your Rising Sun Kick, which is very, very important. Getting as many Rising Sun Kicks out for damage, for healing, and application of other things is going to be really, really useful. Revival, we take over Restoral because Revival has that added magical effect removal. You can cast Restoral when stunned, so I guess that there is that useful there, but you know, just don't get stunned. And then Invigorating Mist, Vivify heals all allies with your Renewing Mist active. So big pickup, your Vivify is going to become an AoE heal, hitting whatever you have your Renewing Mist on, which is really, really big. Row 5, we're going to take Healing Elixir and Zen Pulse. Healing Elixir is an excellent passive defensive node, just an instant 20% HP whenever we drop below 40, and we get a charge every 30 seconds, which is good. And for Zen Pulse, it triggers a pulse around an ally, dealing damage to all enemies within 8 yards, and healing the ally for an amount per enemy damaged. Triggers a second time at 80% effectiveness if cast on targets with Enveloping Mists. That little part is part of this little talent right here. You can see triggers a second time if cast, so that's part of that. Very, very strong. More often than not, you press it on the tank at the start of a bigger pull in a Mythic Plus key, or if somebody's surrounded and needs a heal. Very, very useful. Row 6, we're going to take Mists of Life, just to kind of buff our cocoon, help whoever might be in need. With Mists of Life, adding both of our hots onto whoever we cocoon. Not only are they shielded, but they're immediately receiving healing too. So it turns Life Cocoon from a nice oh crap button to a fantastic oh crap button. Row 6, we're also going to have the most pivotal choice in regards to how our Mistweaver is going to play out, and whether or not we become a Mister or a Fister. For the sake of general use and Mythic Plus, we will go Chi-Ji, which makes us Fisters. We're also going to take Echoing Reverberation, 2 points to further boost our Zen Pulse damage. Here. Echoing Reverberation to build the damage, and then 2 points in Rapid Diffusion, which makes it so that whenever we cast Rising Sun Kick or Enveloping Mist, one of our allies gets a Renewing Mist, which is huge. Remember the synergy with Teachings of the Monastery and resetting your Sun Kick? This is why. It's massive. For row 7, we take Chrysalis to reduce the cooldown of Life Cocoon and make it even better. Mist Wrap, I believe right here, just to buff our Enveloping Mist duration and strength. Celestial Harmony, and Energizing Brew. Energizing Brew just kind of buffs our mana tea, letting us spend and generate more mana. And Celestial Harmony, oh boy. When active, Yulon and Chi-Ji heal up to 5 nearby targets with Enveloping Breath. When you cast Enveloping Mist, healing for 33 and some change over 7 seconds, and increasing the healing they receive from you by 10%. When activated, Yulon and Chi-Ji apply Chi Cocoons to 5 targets within 40 yards, absorbing 170,000 damage. This is massive. This is what synergizes with Chi-Ji or Yulon and makes it so powerful, right? Chi Cocoons on 5 people, Enveloping Breath on 5 people whenever you cast Enveloping Mist. which breath is another hot, 10% more healing on those 5 people. It's absolutely broken, and your celestials become broken with it as well. Row 8 is where we get the 2 talents that allow us to take all these damage abilities we have, right, and make them work for us. We take a Jadefire Stomp, Ancient Teachings, Gift of the Celestials, and Sheilun's Gift. Now, just to reiterate, all the talents taken in this row turn us from healers into DPSers that heal, okay? Gift of the Celestials here reduces the cooldown of Chi by 2 minutes. That's what turns it from the 1 minute, or from the 3 minute to the 1 minute. It gives us all those crazy bonuses all the time. Sheilun's Gift, which we talked about earlier, massive heal. And then we have Ancient Teachings and Jadefire Stomp. Jadefire Stomp, it is your playground, it is your home, it is your consecrate. All the floor outside of your Jadefire Stomp is lava. On its own, it's not really that crazy. You put a field on the ground, it hits people in a cone in front of you, does some damage and healing, and puts a small hot on people it hits. It lasts for 30 seconds and has a 20-second cooldown, so there's never a good reason not to be in it. What makes it so incredibly powerful are the nodes under it that augment it, which we'll talk about soon, and Ancient Teachings. All right, Ancient Teachings is a buff. It gets applied to you for 15 seconds. You can activate this buff by either casting Jadefire Stomp or Essence Font. And remember, Jadefire Stomp's on a 20-second cooldown normally, and Ancient Teachings last for 15 seconds. So you might have to weave in Essence Fonts in order to keep your Ancient Teachings up 100% of the time, but you can do it, and you should do it, all right? For Ancient Teachings, after casting Essence Font or Phalanx Stomp, which Jadefire Stomp, your Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick heal up to 5 people around you for 150% of the damage done split. And then you get 5% extra stamina, right? So 5% more stamina, who cares, dude? Your DPS heals now. All the damage from your Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm. 150% of that damage goes into healing 5 people around you. And smart heals too, right? So it picks people that need it, not people that don't. Massive. Absolutely massive. Now our last 2 rows down here are mainly going to be augmenting things we chose in row 8. Ancient Concordance and Awakened Jadefire both come off of Jadefire Stomp. For Ancient Concordance, your Blackout Kicks strike 3 targets and have an additional 10% chance to reset the cooldown of your Rising Sun Kick while within your Jadefire Stomp. Now, this is huge, okay? A little bit of AoE through Blackout Kick, but now pretty much 100% chance to reset our Rising Sun Kick if you stack the 4 teachings of the Monastery. Right? Absolutely a massive. And then with Awakened Jadeline, your abilities reset Jadefire Stomp 100% more often, and while in Jadefire Stomp, your Tiger Palm strike twice, and your Spinning Crane Kick heals allies for damage done. So now Teaching of the Monastery stacks twice as fast, so it only ever have to hit Tiger Palm twice in a row to get the massive 5-kick payoff on Blackout Kick, and the reset on Sun Kick. And we get Spinning Crane Kick 2 while in our Jadefire Stomp, and that heals too. And our chance to reset Jadefire Stomp is doubled. So whenever we're in our playground with Ancient Teachings rolling, just pummeling people, giving that good old-fashioned fist-to-face communication, right? Our next talent point, we're going to put 1 point into Secret Infusion in order to unlock some small buffs that are given every time we Thunder Focus Tea, right? 8% for 10 seconds, not bad. Another point is going to go into Veil of Pride. All right, this increases our cloud generation by 50% and gives us a full stack Shayluns every 40 seconds instead of 60, which is massive for healing people up at the end of a fight or as a multi-person O-Crap button. Now, as a side note, you can take Xiaohao's lessons if you don't believe you're going to need the full stack that often, or if you want to play around with the buffs that are given to you by Shaylun. I don't personally think either node is stronger than the other for Mythic Plus and general scenarios, and I run Veil of Pride just for the extra generation on clouds. Legacy of Wisdom, below it right here, is wonderful. Increases the amount of people healed by Sheilun's Gift from 3 to 5, which helps to make it that full party lay on hands button. And our last talent is going to go into Rising Mist. Rising Mist is one of the core ideals of fisting as a Mistweaver, just healing by doing damage. Every time you Rising Sun Kick, any ally who has any of your 3 hots on them is going to get a small heal, and all your hots get extended by 4 seconds, up to twice the duration. I mean, that's insane. That means you can have out like 6 renewing miss naturally, plus like however many come from hitting Rising Sun Kick like 10 times to extend the duration. It's plus Essence Fawn and enveloping. It's crazy. It's crazy. But this is my general, right? This is my general Mythic Plus build right here. For rating on Chi-Ji, things are mostly the same, but a few things do change to optimize your damage and healing in a raid versus in a dungeon. We remove Zen Pulse and its aggregator, and we're going to pick up Uplifted Spirits, as well as Yu'lon's Whisper. That looks right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yu'lon's Whisper makes us breathe the cone of healing life whenever we Thunder Tea, and then Uplifted Spirits just helps with a little bit of CDR on our revival. That's how we, through our rotation, can drop revival below 3 minutes. We're also going to drop Veil of Pride for Xiaohao's Lessons, and we're going to remove Legacy of Wisdom and take Upwelling. What this does, this basically makes our Shaylun's Gift, instead of a full party lay on hands, it turns it into a nice buff that heals a couple people. And Upwelling is a massive buff to our Essence Font. You see it can be channeled for stacks to 15, so it can be channeled for up to 3 additional seconds, and it's just throwing bolts out the entire time. It's a huge buff, huge buff. But that's pretty much it. Those are the changes that I would make for Chi-Ji, so not a lot, right? And well, here comes raiding with Yu'lon. Once again, Chi-Ji or Fisting is about healing via damage. Yu'lon or Misting is the actual healing aspect. It's about healing people by putting mists all over everyone. Obviously, being with the same class and spec, a lot of the same spells are used, but they are used rather differently if you're healing with Yu'lon. One of the biggest changes from Chi-Ji to Yu'lon is the loss of Ancient Teachings, which we swap over to Clouded Focus. Healing with Enveloping Mist or Vivify, while channeling Soothing Mist increases their healing done by 15% and reduces their mana cost by 15%, stacking twice. I mean, it's crazy. And as you can already tell, right, just with this one change, we're swapping over to a really heavy Soothing Mist playstyle. Right? We trade out Chi-Ji for Yu'lon, and we remove Jade Fire Stomp. I know, sad days, no more Playground. Instead, we'll be finishing off Secret Infusion, taking a point into Unison and Invoker's Delight. Unison is just, it helps a little bit with the cleave of your Soothing Mist, kind of adds a bit of a cleave to it. And Invoker's Delight gives us a bit of a buff whenever we cast our Celestial, which is a nice buff for our Yu'lon. We're also going to pick up Xiaohao's Lessons and drop Legacy of Wisdom again. But instead of Upwelling, we're going to take Thunder Focus Tea, which is pretty good. It augments the next 2 abilities used after Thunder Focus Tea, as opposed to the 1. And lastly, we change out Zen Pulse and its Augmenter again for Uplifted Spirits. But instead of Yu'lon's Whisper, we're going to take Calming Coalescence right here. Each time Soothing Mist heals, the absorb amount of your next life cocoon is increased by 2%, stacking up to 50 times. It's a little bit of strength to cocoon, making the shield go from big to unnecessarily big. And this is the Yu'lon build. This is the Clouded Focus build. If you're attempting Heroic for Rock or Mythic Raids, higher end content, this is where a Mistweaver healer gets all of their incredible strength from. This is the build right here. But talents out of the way, let's go and check out the stat priority, which is pretty easy. Thankfully, regardless of whether we're Fisters or Misters, our stat priority does remain the same. For primary stats, we're always looking at Intellect, right? It increases the magnitude of spells and abilities. Strength will never be useful on monks, and Agility is only useful for the other 2 specs. For secondary stats, Haste is great. We want to get that to 30% as soon as possible, or the first soft cap. You can see here it goes up to 5,100. You can obviously have more haste than that, but that is the first quote-unquote soft cap. Any more rating after that you gain, there will be diminishing returns on it. So getting up to these caps and only going above them if you need it for some reason is a good idea. Mastery, we talked about haste. Mastery makes us violently ill. We want to stay away from whenever we can. To show what I mean, I have well over 4,000 rating for crit. Well, almost 4,000 for crit, over 5,000 for haste, 5,500 for verse. I have less than 500 mastery. It is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. If my job were Mistweaver mastery, I would do Mistweavers around the world a favor and quit right now. It's absolutely terrible. And that leaves crit strike and versatility. All right. Versatility is an excellent stable increase to power. Okay, the more versatility you get, the more damage and healing you do, and the less damage you take. This is very, very useful in high-end content. High-level keys, 20s plus. Critical strike rating is an excellent unstable increase to power, right? There's a chance that you do double the healing or double the damage, but you also have a chance to do no extra healing or damage. So if you want to go point for point, min-max what's the best, crit strike is going to give you more damage and healing, but versatility will make you tougher. As of this video, for rating, the stat order is crit, haste, verse, mastery. For Mythic Plus, the stat order is verse, haste, crit, mastery. That being said, with the current level of gear and the amount of secondary stats we have available to use, it is completely possible to just pop a verse file and have all three of your good secondary stats maxed, like this right here. You can see I'm only 500 off of verse, about 1500 off of crit. Haste is good, and then no mastery. A lot of my stats are very strong, and this feels good. For your tertiary stats, leech is king, and there's one simple reason. You also leech off of the healing that you do, not just damage. So you heal more because you heal, which makes you heal more. Avoidance is okay. It's just, in my opinion, it's a worse version of versatility. Makes it so that we take, reduced damage taken from area of effect attacks. And then with our rolls and Tiger's Lust, we have no need for speed. So now let's talk gear. The gear that you're seeing on my character, barring a few situational changes, is pretty close to your best in slot choices for a Mistweaving Monk. For tier, I've got your 4 set. All right, hands, shoulders, chest, and head, shoulders, hands, and chest. There we go. Our 5th slot, legs, is going to be from Mythic Plus. We choose this to be our 5th slot because in a certain Mythic Plus dungeon, which you can see from right here, it guarantees to drop that tertiary stat of leech on these legs, which makes it really useful. So we just go for that. Let's see here. Normally, I am running a lariat. Let's put that on. My lariat right here. Your elemental lariat is going to be your best in slot neck for a lot of healers. I'm trying to think if there's a healer. I don't know if there's a healer that it's not best in slot on, but as you can see, we have it. For weapons, you got a couple different options here. There are 2 options that are mainly better than the rest. You see Iridol, the Earth's Master, right here with its on use. We also have Dreambinder, another staff, another on use effect. They have different on uses, and they're both very strong, but because of their on uses, they tend to be stronger than the rest of the weapons. You can choose whichever you prefer. If you like the on use effect for Dreambinder more, go with it. But I prefer Iridol because of its execute. You've got 6 other slots besides trinkets. So you've got your back, your wrists, your belt, your boots, and your rings. This is going to be the main area where you kind of lock down what stats you're looking for. Your secondary stats, this is where you're going to get majority nothing but crit, haste, and verse. You can see crit, haste, haste, verse. Down here we've got crit, haste. Right here we've got haste, verse. We don't want mastery. For trinkets, and see this tier is Mistweavers, we actually have access to a plethora of good trinkets. Right now I'm using a Coagulated Venusaur Blood from Mythic Plus and Pip's Badge from Raid. From Raid, other trinket or good trinket options or Blossom and Smoldering Seedling for healing, or Bellarellos and or Ferox Rage Heart for damage. Take note though, you'll need to have your loot spec set to Brewmaster if you want to receive Ferox Rage Heart. Outside of Raid, other good options for healing are the Revitalizing Voodoo Totem for single target, the Echoing Tearstone for AoE healing, or the Sea Star as just a stat stick. As a general rule of thumb for increasing your gear and overall item level, if it's 10 item levels higher than what you're wearing, it's an upgrade. If it's less than 10 item levels, but it doesn't have mastery, it's an upgrade. 90% of the time, up until you hit about 465 to 470 item level, you shouldn't care about your secondary stats and should only be trying to improve your gameplay and increase your item level. I mentioned one of them for a second earlier, but I thought now would also be a good time to touch on consumables. For our weapon, we want to use Howling Runes right here. For our files, as I mentioned, files of Tepid Versatility right here. For food, I personally use the Deviously Deviled Eggs because they give you main stat. They don't give me any mana though, they don't have any water, so I just go to the inn, pick up some Azura Leywine. And for your augment runes, I am broke, so I have these Veiled Augment runes, which are only like 10 or 12 gold from your auction house. If you're not broke though, you're trying to push that high-end content, you're looking for Draconic Augment runes. Here for enchants are pretty static. The ones you can see on my character right now are the go-to, but the only things worth mentioning are the rings and the chest enchant. For the rings, use the enchant to boost the stat you want, and for the chest, there is another chest enchant out there called Reserve of Intellect. I personally think that this enchant is only useful if you're having mana problems, and even then it's only useful on other healers because of our mana tea and the way that it works. If we need more mana, we just aren't using our tea properly. Moving on to macros and add-ons. I actually don't use any add-ons specifically for Mistweaver or Monk in general. I'll show my add-ons here though, and you can pause and check them out if you have any questions. That being said, one immensely useful add-on that I do have on this list is Weak Auras. And provided you either take the time to learn about it or copy someone else's profile, it's absolutely amazing. It's responsible for the multitude of buttons that you see here in the middle of my screen, as well as the mana bar and a ton of other things that I use to help play to my maximum potential. I do have a handful of macros, as you can see. 10 mouse over macros. Basically, I just mouse over a target, and then I can immediately cast on it. And then one which is built around a trinket, it's just to use the trinket and then cast a little or focus a little guy. I gotta heal, so not bad. But time for the fun part now, the rotation. I'll start with explaining Mythic Plus, and then move on to Chi-Ji, and then rating on Chi-Ji, and then rating on Yu'lon after that. So my Mythic build looks like this. Feel free to pause and copy if you want. And remember that our main goal with this loadout is being in Jadefire Stomp 100% of the time, having Ancient Teachings up 100% of the time, and then we do the 3-button rotation with Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm. We want to be using Rising Sun Kick whenever it comes off cooldown, and we want to be using Tiger Palm twice whenever or before Blackout Kick, because we want to max out the damage and healing and maximize the chance of refreshing our Rising Sun Kick. Now you might think it's worth it to cast Blackout Kick like every other global for the higher chance of resetting your Rising Sun Kick, but I did the math for you and it works out to be a little bit better. It's a little bit better if you press Tiger Palm twice. You stack up to 5. The percentages are a little bit higher if you do it that way versus like every other cast, Blackout, and then kick, and then Blackout. We didn't get it, so we look, and then Blackout. Instead of fishing every other global for your Blackout, your Rising Sun Kick reset, just double Tiger Palm into Blackout Kick. So, Jadefire Stomp down, Ancient Teachings up, that's this little book, and then Tiger, Blackout. Is Rising Sun Kick up? Use it. If not, Tiger, Blackout. We will refresh the Stomp, Tiger, Blackout. We'll use the kick, Tiger, Blackout. And that's all it is. This is the bread and butter rotation of fisting as a Mistweaver, and it's what you should be aiming to do about 80% of the time. Alright, the other 20% is where all the situational and healing buttons come into play. Alright, in dungeons, you're going to be moving around a lot, and a time may come where you use Jadefire Stomp, and then you have to go attack another target, and you don't have your Jadefire Stomp, and you're going to run out of your Ancient Teachings before you get your Jadefire Stomp back, right? That's what your Essence Font is for. You pull up your Essence Font, it refreshes your Ancient Teachings, and you're good to go. You can just reapply Jadefire Stomp as soon as it comes off cooldown. Alright, there, and then we're all good. The Rising Sun Kick gives group members Renewing Mist for 6 seconds, but you also want to use your natural Renewing Mist, right? It stacks up to 2. You never want to have it fully stacked up to 2. You always want to make sure all your party members have Renewing Mists and as many raid members as possible. It's a smart heal too, so it'll jump to other people who need healing. So it's extremely important to cast it, even if it's on someone who's already full health. Obviously, you want to prefer casting it on someone who isn't full health, but it's better to cast it on someone who is full health and have the healing rolling for your Rising Mist talent. It also synergizes extremely well with the current tier set, which is built around casting Renewing Mists. You can see here our 2 set. Our 2 set, Renewing Mist applies Chi Harmony to its initial target, increasing their healing taken by you by 50% for 8 seconds. And then the 4 set is 20% of all healing you do with targets with Chi Harmony is stored and then dispersed evenly among your allies when Chi Harmony fades. So every time you apply Renewing Mist to somebody, they also get Chi Harmony, which is a huge healing taken buff. And when this buff wears away, 20% of all healing that they did gets dispersed to the rest of your raid. So it's huge. You always want to be casting this, right? You also get a free Vivify every 10 seconds, which can be really useful as a tool to help people who are missing a chunk of health. It's a really nice oh crap button just to mouse over, because I have it set as mouse over. Just to mouse over and click the button. It's very useful. You could always Thunder Focus Tea into Enveloping Mists on the tank. Or you could cast your instant cast Enveloping Mist via Thunder Focus Tea. So Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping Mist on somebody who's really hurting, followed by a Soothing Mist and 3 or 4 Vivifies. You know, potentially 1 million healing and just 4 or 5 globals. But always, always, whenever you finish what you're doing, you want to go right back into your Tiger, Blackout. Always, always, Tiger, Blackout. Check your Rising Sun Kick, Tiger, Blackout. Always, always. You always want to be in your playground. You always want to be DPSing. The Renewing Mists, the Enveloping Mists, the Revivals, the Shaylin Gifts, they're all secondary things. All making it so you can DPS your little heart out and put out massive healing while doing it. One thing to note about this rotation is that it does change slightly when you activate Chi-Ji, right? For 10 seconds, whenever you cast Chi-Ji, everyone affected by your Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, or Essence Font Mist gets healed for more through Celestial Harmony. And this will happen whenever you cast any of your kicks. Alright, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Spinning, Crane Kick, okay? Chi-Ji's all about the legs. And whenever you Rising Sun Kick, whenever you Spinning Crane Kick, and for every application of damage from Blackout Kick, you build up to a max of 3 stacks. Each of which of these stacks reduces the cost and cast time of the next Enveloping Mist by 1/3. I believe that was Chi-Ji's thing. Yep, down there near the bottom. As a result, what this means is that you, because of our teachings of the monastery, say we pop it, I only have to Tiger Palm once before Blackout Kicking, and I'll get if Ancient Teachings is down. I hit it once, and then I'll get 3 stacks. I did not explain that well. Let's try again. Whenever I have Chi-Ji up and Ancient Teachings up as well, hitting Tiger Palm into Blackout Kick will give me all 3 stacks, because 2 extra stacks from your Tiger Palm. So the ideal rotation when Chi-Ji is up is going to be Tiger Palm, Blackout, Envelop. You envelop a random target. Tiger, Blackout, Envelop. Tiger, Blackout, Envelop. You still want to be using your Rising Sun Kick to refresh people, but Tiger, Blackout, Envelop whenever Chi-Ji is up. When it's not up, Tiger, Blackout, and then keep Rising Sun on cooldown. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Mythic Plus rotation. For healing with Chi-Ji, it's actually really similar to our Mythic Plus rotation. We still want to be in our Jade Fire Stomp 100% of the time. We still want to have Ancient Teachings rolling 100% of the time. But we do change a couple of talents, remember? And as such, we're focused on, let's see, our Shaylun's Gift loses a bit of healing. It's no longer a 5-person lay on hands button. It only heals 3 people, but it gives us our Shayhal's Lesson now. So very useful before we build up for big ramps. We're also going to be buffing up our Essence Font. You can see it stacks to 15 right here. I have it stacked up to 15. And using it, it casts for a much longer time. So what I personally like to do, I like to use Essence Font right before casting, or I'm sorry, I like to use Thunder Focus Tea right before casting Essence Font to double that speed. And because I get that little breath there, that's the breath from Thunder Focus Tea. I also like to use Essence Font right before casting Revival for huge burst healing to the entire raid. You want to put a higher priority as well into both Essence Font and making sure you never have 2 stacks of Renewing Mist. You always want to make sure you have that on cooldown. You're still making sure you use your instant Vivify whenever you can, and you're using Chi-Ji whenever you know damage is coming. So pretty much on cooldown. You also want to prioritize using your Shayloon's or Shayhao's lessons before any big cooldowns, as we talked about. But if you're not using it for a big cooldown like a Revival or a Chi-Ji, you probably want to use it whenever you get to 10 stacks. Mana Tea, you want to be using your Mana Tea as well a lot more often when you're in raids. You're going to find that using more healing based abilities, you're going to burn through your mana. So try and dump 10 to 20 Mana Tea stacks before a big round of healing, before your Essence Font into Revival, because it'll definitely go a long way in helping you reach the end of the fight with mana to spare. Other than that, the rotation pretty much stays the same. So we move on to raiding with Yu'lon, which is a completely different beast, both in rotation and potential of output. Because we are not running Ancient Teachings or Jade Firestomp, as you can see, there's no idea of staying in an area, keeping buffs up, and doing a damage rotation. Raid healing with Yu'lon is a lot more the classic healing playstyle, where you prioritize healing spells, you have ramps, and due to the nature of Mistweaver, you'll do any and everything for that sweet, sweet innervate. As such, there's no real rotation, just more of a priority list. We always want to have our statue down, right? Always keep your statue down. And you always want to keep your charges of Renewing Mist on cooldown, but any damage on members of the raid is going to get answered with Enveloping Mist, not just Renewing Mist. We've also got our free Vivify that we can use to help get people up. As a mister, our ramps can happen roughly every minute, and if we choose, we can perform a smaller version of our ramp pretty much whenever we want to for the small cost of half our mana bar. Not really half, but a quarter isn't much of a stretch. But we start by Rising Sun kicking and then using up any mana chi charges we already have. That's going to help with the mana cost reduction, hopefully give it to us for long enough to get our full burst off. After Mana Tea, we use Shayloon's Gift for the buff into Yu'lons. You now have 12 seconds to apply as many different Enveloping Mists on as many as our friends as possible. Okay, we also want to make sure we're mixing in our Rising Sun kick for the refresh. After we've got our 6 to 10 envelopes down, or as we're casting those 6 to 10 envelopes, please do try and remember that whenever we cast an Enveloping Mist on someone, we also cast Renewing Mist. So as you cast them, try to cast them on targets that don't already have one of those two hots on them. And after applying a good amount of envelopes, you want a Rising Sun kick again to extend everything by a few seconds, kind of cement having a bunch of hots spread out across the field. At that point, you're going to find the lowest health party member or raid member. You're going to cast Soothing Mist, followed by Envelop if they need it, and then just cast tons and tons and tons of Vivifies into the target. Ideally 5 to 7 Vivifies on the same target. And this is, ideally going to do a massive amount of overhealing. Yes, it does do a massive amount of overhealing, but all of your allies who will have other hots on them, the Renewing Mists and the Enveloping Mists, you just spent 15 seconds putting on everybody. Everybody's also going to feel those Vivifies because of your Rapid Diffusion. No, not Rapid Diffusion. I'm so sorry. What is it? It is sprint through our different. What on earth? I am losing it. I don't remember which one it is. I'll be honest. I don't remember which one it was. There it is. There it is. Vivify heals all targets with a Renewing Mist. And then it works the same, obviously, with your Vivify because of the 10% extra healing. So very, very big. If in that cooldown window, while we're trying to put out a ton of envelopes, we find we have to move, you can take 3 globals and put them into Thunder Tea, Envelop, because when you Thunder Tea, your next 2 envelopes will be instant cast, and on top of giving a bit of extra healing right off the bat. So very, very useful. Now this burst healing, which lasts for about 15 seconds every minute, is immensely strong. It's absolutely crazy. And I strongly believe that this class, this spec, this loadout right here, has the potential to do the most healing out of any healer in the raid. It's absolutely nuts. It's just a matter of practice. So, yeah. But that concludes my 0 to hero guide for Mistweaving. At this point, you should hopefully have the knowledge to take your Mistweaver into raids and dungeons and be the hero everyone wants. If you stayed with me to this point, I want to say thank you for listening to my guide. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. If you did, or if you didn't, please make sure to leave a like and hit that good old subscribe button for me. Come on, you want to. Oh, and leave a comment for me if you don't mind. Tell me something about Mistweaver I don't know, or tell me what spec you want me to see next. But yeah, all right. Bye, everybody.